A project is fundamentally a temporary endeavor undertaken to produce a unique product, service, or result.
Temporary and unique.
Those are the key words. Temporary, it has a defined start and end, and unique, meaning its output is distinct, it's novel. This is crucial because it immediately differentiates it from ongoing, repetitive operations.
Got it. So something with a clear finish line and a distinct output. Okay, then we hear about program and portfolio. How do those scale up from a single project?
Right. So a program is a group of interrelated projects. They're managed in a coordinated way to achieve higher objectives or benefits that you just couldn't get by managing them individually.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say you're building a new school and a new college. They might be part of the same program because they share similar skill sets, resources, maybe overarching educational goals.
Okay.
But you wouldn't group that with, say, launching a satellite. Completely different objectives and competencies involved there.
Yeah, that example instantly clarifies it.
Yeah.
So the advantage of grouping them into a program would be things like maybe cost benefits, like negotiating bulk brick orders for both.
Exactly. And maybe flexibility, too.
Like shifting resources between the school and college projects if needed.
You've nailed the advantages. Significant cost benefits and increased resource mobility. Now, a portfolio takes that concept to the highest strategic level.
Okay, portfolio.
It's the totality of an organization's investments. And this includes all projects, all programs, and all ongoing operations.
Everything.
Yeah, this is truly a C-suite level perspective. It focuses on how money is invested and how returns are generated across the entire enterprise. It's about optimizing the organization's overall strategic goals.
So portfolio is the big picture of all investment. What about project management itself? What's the core of that discipline?
Project management is basically the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to achieve specific project objectives.
It's the doing.
It's not just about having those theories and tools. It's about actively utilizing them to drive outcomes. And at the heart of that is the project manager.
Right, the person in charge.
The individual explicitly named in the project charter. That charter grants them the authority to use organizational resources and makes them accountable for the project's success or failure.
And the project team, who are they?
A project team is, well, a set of cross-functional individuals performing project-related activities. They generally report to the project manager. They're the ones bringing diverse skills to actually make things happen.
That distinction between projects and operations seems really important. Can you quickly break that down again for us? It feels like a common point of confusion.
It absolutely is, and it's worth repeating. The critical difference is their nature. A project is temporary and unique, closing once its objective is attained.
Like prototyping that new car model.
Exactly. It has a clear start and end. Operations, on the other hand, are ongoing, repetitive work for sustainable business objectives. Value is defined
Like the
as,
assembly line
the
production
worth,
of that.
importance, or usefulness of something. But its perception absolutely depends on the person and their stakeholder perspective.
So for a customer,
For a customer, value might be in the features and functions they utilize, like the intuitive interface of a new iPhone. For a corporate organization, it's typically financial metrics like return on investment, ROI.
and for non-government or government organizations, it must be different again.
Yeah, for them, value is often measured by how effectively they serve citizens or humanity, like their contributions to communities or the environment. Holistically, you can think of value as a ratio.
A ratio.
The satisfaction of needs, whether monetary or non-monetary, divided by the efficient use of resources, money, people, time, energy. It's about achieving maximum benefit with minimal expenditure.
So getting the most out of what you put in a way that truly serves a purpose.
Yeah.
How do we build a system that does deliver this value, overcoming those silos you mentioned? Seems like a big challenge.
It is, but it's doable. It's all about creating collective synergy across your portfolio, programs, projects, and operations. This integrated system is what builds sustainable and advancing organizations.
By breaking down the walls.
Absolutely. Overcoming those bureaucratic silos is key to avoiding wasted resources and high attrition rates, ensuring every effort contributes to the larger picture.
Okay, let's talk about the value chain then.
Right.
We often hear terms like output, capabilities, outcome, and benefits thrown around. How do these connect to actually delivering value?
This chain is vital to understand. An output is simply the specialized product or deliverable, let's say, a new sales system software.
Okay, the thing you built.
Right, but that output alone isn't enough. Next come capabilities. These are the set of project outputs needed to actually deliver an outcome. This includes things like training, documentation, support, so people can actually use that new sales system effectively.
Ah, I see. So you build the software, but if people don't know how to use it or can't use it, it's not actually valuable yet. Training makes it a capability.
Exactly. Then the outcome is the business change that occurs when that output is used.
Yeah.
So with the new sales system and the training, maybe sales orders are processed much faster, with fewer errors perhaps going from taking 10 hours down to just 10 minutes. That's a tangible business change.
That's the outcome.
Yes. And the final piece, benefit, is always measurable. These are your key performance indicators, KPIs, showing the positive impact of the outcome.
Right.
Think costs reduced by 10%, sales orders up by 50%, or revenue increased by 10%. Differentiating these terms, output, capability, outcome, benefit, is essential for seamless application and coordination within any team. Really helps clarify what you're aiming for.
So when should we be focusing on this value delivery? Is it something you just check at the very end of a project, like a final quality control step?
Oh, that's a common and dangerous myth. Value delivery must be a continuous focus throughout the entire project lifecycle.
Throughout, really?
Yes, this means before the project even begins, constantly during its execution, and even long after its completion.
Okay, break that down. Before?
For instance, before a project begins, you conduct strategic analyses like a SWOT, feasibility studies, detailed business case development, figuring out the cost, benefit, ROI, payback period, determining whether to even invest at all.
Makes sense. And during the project, what does continuous focus look like then?
During execution, there must be constant alignment. You continually justify the business case, ensure it still aligns with the organization's strategy, and importantly, if a project no longer delivers value,
You stop it.
you must have the courage to stop it. Avoid wasting precious resources. Think about building physical schools during a pandemic when virtual classrooms are desperately needed. That project might need to be scrapped and funds reinvested where they will deliver value right now.
Wow, that's a powerful insight. Takes discipline. And after completion, the project's done, right? Not quite. After completion, the focus shifts to how the project transforms into operations and how the operations team leverages it to deliver long-term value. What's fascinating here is that the potential to add value is highest at the initial stage.
Early on.
Yes, early on, and the cost for change is lowest then, too. For example, designing energy-efficient features into a building blueprint early on is far cheaper than trying to retrofit them later.
Right.
Later stages see decreased potential for value add and increased cost and resistance to change. So you must constantly validate the benefits, keep checking if it's still delivering. This shift to value-centric thinking makes so much sense. Okay, now let's broaden our view a bit and explore the entire project ecosystem. Starting with the organizational governance system. What's the difference between governance and management here, and why does that distinction matter for delivering value?
It's a crucial distinction, often confused. Governance leads the organization. It focuses on the big picture vision, strategy, setting the policies and frameworks. It essentially oversees management.
Like the board or C-suite?
Exactly. Think steering committees, board of directors, CXO level. Management, on the other hand, handles the day-to-day operations and projects. They focus on executing those strategic goals and delivering. These are the teams actually doing the work.
So governance sets the direction and the boundaries, while management kind of runs the race within those boundaries. How do you keep top executives involved strategically without wasting their time on, trivial day-to-day matters, while still ensuring they retain control? Seems like a balancing act.
It is a balancing act, and that's where delegation and setting clear threshold limits for authority at different levels become crucial.
Threshold.
Yeah. For example, a team manager might have the authority to approve changes up to, say, $1,000. Beyond that, it escalates to the project manager, maybe up to $10,000. Then perhaps to a project board for up to $50,000, and anything really big, over $100,000, goes to the corporate board.
And this applies to scope and time, too.
Yes, scope, cost, time variations, whatever makes sense for the context. This ensures top management stays focused on strategy while maintaining critical oversight where it's needed most.
That's a smart way to balance involvement and efficiency. This brings us nicely to information flow and benefit tracking. How does information move effectively up and down to ensure that projects stay aligned and continue to deliver value long-term?
Well, there's a vital flow of information both down and up the organization. Senior leadership defines the strategy.
Top down.
Right. Then the portfolio translates that into specific projects and programs. The program and project managers then execute, deliver value, and eventually things transform into operations.
And the flow back up.
The flow up is equally important. Operations highlight issues or opportunities. Projects and programs report their progress and performance, and the portfolio shows overall performance back to senior leadership.
So it's a loop.
Exactly. This constant loop ensures projects remain aligned with organizational objectives. If they don't, resources can be quickly reallocated. No point wasting resources if it's not delivering strategic value.
That really drives home the idea of stopping projects that no longer deliver value.
Yeah.
Can you give us a long-term example of how benefit tracking plays out, especially after a project technically finishes?
Absolutely. Let's consider building a thermal power station. Maybe it's a 5-year, $10 million construction project.
Okay.
During those 5 years, revenue is zero. But after handover to operations, say in year 6, it generates $1 million. Year 7, maybe $2 million. Year 8, $5 million. And by year 10, it's generating $15 million annually.
So the value comes much later.
Precisely. The project's true success isn't just its completion on time and budget, it's the long-term value generated. You track ROI and payback period over many years. Perhaps it takes 8 years to pay back the initial investment in this example.
And you keep tracking.
You keep tracking. This continuous tracking helps ensure the power station actually delivers the expected electricity for decades. And if it falls short, maybe it only generates 500 milliW instead of the planned 1,000 milliW that tracking allows for intervention, maybe launching new projects to maintain the expected benefits.
That example really highlights the long view needed for value. How do all the internal and external factors influence a project's success or failure? And which ones should we really pay attention to?
Okay, the project environment basically refers to all the conditions surrounding a project that influence its behavior and deliverables. And crucially, they're not always favorable. Understanding them dictates your actions, much like, cold weather forcing you to wear warm clothes. The environment shapes what you need to do.
Makes sense. So for internal factors, those within the organization's influence, what are some of the most impactful ones, perhaps the less obvious ones we might miss?
Internally, I think it's crucial to consider the cultural structure and governance. This is the vision, mission, beliefs, leadership style, everything that fosters synergy and team spirit.
Culture, yeah.
Without a strong, supportive culture, even the best plans can falter. Another key internal factor is employee capabilities, focusing on skill building and ensuring you have the core competencies needed within your team.
Developing your people.
Exactly. And finally, I'd highlight knowledge assets. This means leveraging tacit knowledge, the stuff people know but isn't written down, using past project lessons learned, and creating learning forums within the organization. These factors, maybe more than just tools or templates, deeply influence how your project team actually performs.
And what about the external influences? Those things outside the organization's direct control. Which of these are particularly challenging or important for project managers to constantly monitor?
Externally, market conditions are always critical. Understanding competitors, market share, and those broader VUCA aspects we mentioned. Things change fast out there.
For sure.
Then there are social and cultural influences, things like demographics, religious beliefs, local customs. These become especially critical when you're working with cross-cultural teams. Ignoring these can lead to significant missteps and misunderstandings.
Definitely.
And lastly, the regulatory environment. Government policies, sudden lockdowns like we saw, and new codes of conduct, these can instantly shift your project's landscape, sometimes overnight. These external forces are largely beyond your control, but your ability to monitor and adapt to them is absolutely that friction point. It's the relationship between the temporary project life cycle and the much more enduring product life cycle. Organizations have to stop thinking about just getting a project done. They have to start focusing on how that project sustains value across the entire lifespan of the product it serves.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with some clear definitions because they sound similar, but they really optimize for entirely different things. The project lifecycle, the PRLC, that's what everyone knows. It's a temporary endeavor. It has a definite start date, a definite end date. Its primary goal is just the completion of a unique deliverable or result. If you were managing an event, success was always measured by compliance. Did you stick to the scope? Did you hit the schedule? And of course, did you stay within budget?
And then you contrast that with the product lifecycle, the PLC. This is where the long game lives. It's significantly longer, it's ongoing, it's persistent, it spans the entire evolution of a product from that initial light bulb moment all the way through growth, maturity, and its eventual decline. The PLC's goal is totally different. It's the maximization of long-term market value and utility. You can think of it as the overarching framework, and the PRLC is often just a temporary component like one chapter in a very long book.
I think the metrics are the real tell here. When we look at the PRLC, the teams are inherently temporary. They're like a strike force, they achieve their objective, and then they disband. And their metrics are all about compliance, all those internal measures of efficiency.
Right. But PLC teams are persistent, they're cross-functional, and they are market-focused. They're sustained through ongoing operational funding, ongoing maintenance. Their metrics look outward. We're talking about things like market share, revenue generation, retention rates, customer satisfaction, 6 months, a year after the project output was delivered. The PLC might deliver a flawless new software module on time, but the PLC is tracking if customers actually use that module and if it moved the needle on retention.
And here is the key tactical insight for you, the listener. If your bonus structure or your team's bonus structure is tied solely to those PRLC metrics, that triple constraint of time, scope, and budget, you are fundamentally incentivized to ignore long-term product value. You're rewarded for finishing the work, not for ensuring the work actually helps the customer.
That's the disconnect.
Yeah.
That is the exact disconnect we have to solve. And the synergy happens when the product manager, who's the visionary, the one who owns the long-term roadmap and the user experience, when they work seamlessly with the project manager, who is the expert executor, the one translating that vision into actionable, timely milestones. This tight collaboration is what ensures technical outputs align with strategic product needs. It prevents the organization from delivering brilliant solutions to the wrong problems.
This is the unifying framework. It forces organizations to move past organizational charts and instead conceptualize how all these pieces, portfolios, programs, projects, products, and operations, how they all flow together to build and sustain the organization.
And critically, this entire system is based on a shared understanding of value. And it's not just profit. Value is defined as the worth, importance, or usefulness of something. The tricky part is that it can be highly tangible, like increased revenue, or it can be completely intangible, like better brand reputation or reducing regulatory risk. It all depends on who the stakeholder is.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because the system organizes the contribution to value into these distinct interacting layers. At the highest level, you have portfolios. Think of these as the strategic investment map for the entire organization. They prioritize investments to maximize overall value.
And then below that, you find programs. These are groups of related projects that are managed together to get benefits you couldn't get individually. So for example, you combine 3 related IT projects to achieve a bigger benefit, like say, reducing the time to market for a whole suite of products.
Then you hit the actual work engine, the projects. They are the mechanism of change. They create those unique, tangible deliverables, the outputs.
And the products are the primary vehicles for transmitting that value to the market and to the user.
And then holding it all together is operations. Those are the ongoing activities that sustain the organization and maintain the product after the project team has long moved on.
The strength of this entire system, it relies completely on a bi-directional information flow. So strategic intent flows downward from leadership to portfolios and projects. But the necessary friction comes from the data on progress, outcomes, and market performance flowing back upward.
Wait, hold on. Isn't collecting that much data, portfolio review, business impact analysis, all that, isn't that just creating another massive bureaucratic burden? How do we keep it lean and useful?
That's a really important challenge. The sources emphasize that this feedback isn't just reporting for reporting's sake, it's governance. Portfolio review and adjustment, that ensures the current slate of work is still aligned with a constantly shifting strategy. The business impact analysis uses real results data to inform future decisions. If we find that a project's output isn't contributing to the product's intended value, maybe a competitor beat us to market, this system gives you the formal way to either kill the project quickly or pivot its purpose. It's built to prevent waste, not just report on it.
Okay, so that feedback loop tells us when we're off track. The next logical question is, what are we tracking? And this brings us to what might be the most critical nuance for long-lasting value: the distinction between the steps in the value chain. It's so easy to focus on the immediate results, but that's exactly where organizations fail.
We have to move beyond just the immediate. Let's use a highly relatable example, like developing a new employee training program.
Okay, walk us through the chain.
It starts with the output. That's the immediate, tangible thing you create. So in our example, the output is the course materials, the digital learning module, or a physical bridge if we were talking about infrastructure. It's the artifact. Now, when stakeholders, in this case employees, use that output, you generate an outcome. The outcome for our training program isn't just that staff took the course. The outcome is certified staff, or maybe it's a reduction in the time it takes for new hires to get up to speed. It's the change in state or behavior that happens because the output was used.
And the real payoff is the benefit. That's the realized measurable gain that follows the outcome. So if our outcome was fewer processing errors, the benefit is quantifiable. It's reduced compliance failures. Or maybe it's saving $50,000 a month in rework. The benefit is the value proposition actually coming to life.
And finally, you get to value. That's the ultimate net result. All those realized benefits minus the total costs of achieving them. For value to be truly, truly long-lasting, the project must be designed with the outcome in mind, not just the output. A lot of benefits, especially financial ROI and market perception, they only show up after the project has officially closed and the product is in its operational stage.
So we can stop thinking of value as this vague concept. It's quantifiable. The sources even provide a clear equation for it. For our deep dive, we can phrase it conceptually. Value equals everything good that happens. The tangible money and the intangible reputation boost
part of a
minus
major
the
initiative.
total
You
cost
probably
of
know
achievement.
this scenario.
The project team, they hit every single deadline. They stay under budget, deliver the product exactly as specified.
And everyone celebrates.
Exactly. They pop the champagne. But then that product or system, it hits the market or it enters operations and it just fails to generate any measurable financial return.
And that is, it's the ultimate failure of misalignment, isn't it? You have perfect execution, but absolutely zero value delivered.
Right.
The difference, as our sources point out, it isn't about, better project management tools or software. It's about designing the entire organizational mechanism,
Yeah.
what we're calling the value delivery system, to make sure the strategic why is always driving the tactical how.
Absolutely. So today we're going way beyond just completing tasks. Our deep dive is all about architecting value delivery systems. And our mission really is to understand those crucial points of synchronization, where strategy finally meets execution.
And why capturing quantifiable value takes so much more discipline than just finishing a project.
We want to give you the blueprint.
Yeah, and the core concept here is just recognizing that fundamental tension. Project efforts are temporary by design. That team eventually disbands. But the product's life and the organization's goals, those are enduring.
A very long time, hopefully.
Hopefully. And if those two forces aren't locked together by a really robust system, you end up celebrating an output that has no lasting business impact at all.
So let's lay out the roadmap for everyone. We're going to climb the organizational ladder, right? From the tactical teams all the way up to portfolio to see how the money flows.
Then we'll decode that famous value delivery chain.
Right, the sequence that turns an activity into a measurable benefit. And finally, we'll look at the governance mechanisms and the environmental factors that can either sustain or completely derail that whole system.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start at the very top of that financial structure. Before anyone codes a line or pours any concrete, resources have to be allocated. How do organizations structure their investment to keep it connected to that big picture strategy?
Well, it all starts with the portfolios. And we're not talking about a stock portfolio here.
Right, not a financial one.
No, we're talking about the highest level of strategic governance. You should think of the portfolio as the organization's overall investment war chest. Their job is not execution, it's oversight.
Okay.
They manage all the projects, all the programs, and all the ongoing operations, specifically to make sure that the whole collection of these investments meets the organization's overarching strategic goals.
So if the portfolio is that strategic gatekeeper, allocating the budget and making those tough trade-offs, like deciding between funding project A versus project B, what's the next layer down, where do resources start getting pooled for similar goals?
That would be the program level. And this is where the complexity really starts to show.
I can imagine.
A program is just a grouping of related projects. But the key insight here for you, the listener, is that they aren't just grouped for, administrative convenience. They are grouped because those individual projects share dependencies, they share risks, and they share benefits that must be managed collectively.
Oh.
If you tried to run them separately, you'd likely end up with duplicated efforts or, even worse, conflicting outcomes that just negate each other's value.
I can see the organizational friction already. If programs are just collections of projects, why do we need that whole layer of administration? Why can't we just use better portfolio software and manage, say, 50 individual projects?
Because the complexity isn't just in tracking the status, it's in resolving conflicts. I mean, imagine a scenario where two different projects within the same program need access to the same three highly specialized database architects.
And they both need them now.
And they're both critical path items. The program manager's essential role is to mediate that resource contention and make sure the shared goal of the program is still met, even if one project has to slightly delay. That's value delivery at work, solving those shared dependency issues.
That makes perfect sense. And then finally, we get down to the most familiar layer, the project itself. This is that temporary engine that's designed to produce a specific output.
Correct. It's temporary, it has a clear start, a clear end. It's designed to produce a unique result. But here is the critical distinction for anyone trying to design a value delivery system. We have to contrast the temporary nature of the project with the enduring nature of operations.
We've talked about the temporary nature of a project, but that doesn't really capture the whole picture, does it? When does the temporary stop and the enduring actually begin?
Operations are those repetitive, ongoing activities that sustain the organization and maintain the products after the project team is finished. Think of our example of a new software system. The project team finishes the build and deployment. Operations steps in to handle the continuous monitoring, the maintenance, the patches, the support.
The day-to-day grind.
Exactly. And the value delivery system requires a really clean handover from the project. The unique effort to operations, the sustaining effort, because if operations fails, all the value that was built by the project just, well, it quickly erodes.
And this brings us right to the core challenge, defining what value actually is. We said companies celebrate the project output, but that output so often fails to create any net value. So how do we correctly define the chain that transforms work into actual benefit?
This sequence is probably the most crucial takeaway from our sources. Value isn't the deployment, it's the realization of a positive, quantifiable benefit. And we need to walk through the 4 essential links in this chain, because most organizations, they typically break down somewhere between step 2 and step 3.
Okay, let's use a concrete example. Let's say a company launches a new mobile app for customer service. What's step 1? The output.
The output is just the tangible deliverable. In this case, it's the mobile app itself. It's coded, it's tested, and it's deployed to the App Store. That is the immediate product of the project.
Okay, the app is live, but if customers don't know it exists or, how to even use it, it's just code on a server. That takes us to step 2. Capability.
Exactly. Capability is the output combined with all the necessary enabling components. So things like marketing to inform customers or training for the internal support staff. You need the tool and the ability to wield it effectively.
Right.
The capability is realized when customers are actually using the app and the support staff know how to route inquiries through it.
And now we cross that chasm from just activity to actual results. Step 3 is the outcome. This is the measurable change in business behavior or operations that's achieved by using the capability.
The outcome is so critical. For the app, maybe the outcome is that, say, 70% of routine customer inquiries are now resolved through self-service on the app instead of requiring a phone call to a human agent.
That's a huge operational change.
It's massive. And that operational change then has to be converted into the final quantifiable reality, the benefit.
Okay.
The benefit is the measurable, positive financial or strategic gain that you get from that outcome. Because 70% of calls were deflected, the company was able to reduce its call center staffing costs by $500,000 annually. That is the concrete benefit from the successful outcome.
So what does this all mean when we talk about value? Because the true measure of success isn't just hitting all 4 steps. It's whether the entire exercise was financially worthwhile.
And that's where the calculation comes in. The sources are crystal clear on this. Value equals total benefits minus total costs.
Yeah.
You have to factor in the costs of the project, the costs of the training, the ongoing costs of the operations team maintaining the app, everything.
Everything.
So if that $500,000 in annual savings is realized, but the total investment project and operations was, say, $1.5 million, then the organization is still running a loss on that initiative until year 3.
That is the clear metric you need. It connects that high-level strategic decision at the portfolio level directly to the bottom line, and it reveals that you can execute perfectly and still deliver negative net value.
Okay, Let's zoom out now and look at the control mechanisms that govern this entire chain. This distinction between temporary execution and long-term value is so critical, and it seems to be governed by understanding two different worldviews.
That's right. The real challenge for long-term success is reconciling these two worldviews. On one hand, you have the project lifecycle, or PRLC, which governs the temporary effort, and on the other, you have the product lifecycle, or PLC, which governs the enduring asset.
Let's clarify those. The project lifecycle, PRLC, is focused on what exactly?
It's all focused on internal efficiency. Did we deliver the output on time, within scope, on budget? It's very inward-looking, just measuring that temporary effort. Okay.
But the product lifecycle, PLC, looks outward. It focuses on the product's long-term market viability, customer satisfaction, and, the continuous delivery of net value over its entire lifespan.
So organizational success, then, hinges entirely on making sure that the PLC perspective is constantly driving and judging the PRLC activities.
100%.
Okay, so the PRLC is building the car, and the PLC is making sure the car stays relevant, fueled, and profitable for a decade. How does the organization make sure that the people focused on that temporary build don't derail the long-term strategic vision?
By clearly separating governance and management. Governance is the high-level group. Often it's the board or an executive steering committee, and they set the strategic vision and the policies. Management is the team handling the day-to-day execution.
And that separation keeps the strategy safe.
It ensures that strategic guardrails are set by people who are looking 3 years down the line, not just 3 months.
We see this control in a really practical way through the concept of thresholds of authority. This is what stops the temporary teams from making big strategic errors, right?
It's the perfect practical illustration of governance in action. These thresholds provide clear, specific limits on decision-making power. For example, a program manager might have authority to approve expense changes up to, say, $5,000 without escalation.
Because that's a tactical management decision.
Exactly. However, if that manager realizes they need to pivot the project to integrate a major new $100,000 piece of technology, a move that fundamentally alters the cost structure and the benefit calculation, that must be escalated to the portfolio or the board for approval.
And that prevents that classic scenario where a tactical team makes a huge strategic pivot that just bypasses the whole long-term value equation. But this entire system, it seems like it relies on information flowing freely.
It absolutely does. That's the necessity of the feedback loop.
Yeah.
This loop is the vital artery of the value system. Strategic intent flows downward from the governance level, defining the what and the why.
And the data flows up.
But critically, yes. Performance data, market results, customer adoption rates, all those calculated benefits, they must flow upward.
And what is the explicit non-negotiable purpose of that upward flow of data?
Its purpose is to force accountability and agility. That upward data has to provide leadership with the real-time visibility to pivot, rescope, or, most importantly, stop projects that are no longer capable of delivering that calculated net value.
Even if they're almost done.
Even if it's 90% complete. If the data shows the total benefits are rapidly decreasing because of market shifts, the portfolio must have the discipline and the mechanism to shut down the project.
Let's shift our focus outward now, because no matter how well architected your internal hierarchy is, these projects are always running inside a really complex ecosystem. Success is often determined by factors entirely outside the organization's control.
Yes, you have to acknowledge that the external world is constantly disrupting, that value equals benefits minus cost calculation. We can divide these influencing factors into two groups, starting with the internal factors, so the environment within the boundaries of the organization.
What internal elements most frequently disrupt that chain? Particularly, I'm thinking that translation from capability to outcome.
Well, there are three key areas. First, organizational culture. If your culture penalizes failure, what happens? Teams will deliberately soften the performance data flowing up that feedback loop.
They won't report the bad news.
They won't report honest market results, which completely kills that strategic stopping power. Second, employee competency. If the project team delivers a highly complex system, the output, but the operations staff lack the necessary training and skills, well, the capability link is broken. No positive outcome can be achieved.
And the third?
And third, knowledge assets. If the organization has a weak system for storing and sharing project data, every new project starts from scratch, which massively inflates costs and erodes potential net value.
So even the best designed system can be sabotaged by these internal human factors. Then we have the external world, the forces that often blindside organizations and force them to pivot.
These external factors have to be monitored relentlessly. Take market conditions.
Yeah.
Let's say you spend a year developing a new product based on a high price point, and then a major recession hits.
Suddenly the market's gone.
Exactly. The value calculation is instantly negative, regardless of your perfect execution.
Or a sudden regulatory shift could do it.
Oh, absolutely. The regulatory environment can be a killer. You might have a medical device project that is perfectly on track, but a change in FDA approval standards or a new international tariff on a key component, it instantly inflates your total costs, potentially making the entire benefit realization non-viable overnight.
And what about social trends?
That's the last one. Social and cultural norms. If a product relies on a particular emerging social trend, and that trend just quickly fades, the project might deliver an output that the market simply rejects. That nullifies the capability stage completely. Ignoring these external factors basically guarantees that your perfectly executed project might deliver zero market value.
This deep dive really gives us the architecture we needed. So to wrap up for you, the listener, true success in value delivery demands moving past that temporary focus of the project lifecycle, the PRLC. You have to judge every decision through the lens of long-term market gain, the product lifecycle or PLC.
And always, always run the numbers. Remember, value is the net financial benefit.
Right.
And if we connect this all the way back to the ultimate practical application, it really brings us to organizational maturity. You have to start the right projects, yes, the ones that align with your portfolio strategy, but the ultimate skill in architecting a successful delivery system. It lies in mastering that feedback loop and possessing the discipline to stop.
Stopping what is no longer working before it sinks even more resources.
It is the highest form of governance. Possessing the control mechanisms to strategically halt a temporary project when that upward flowing data shows it will no longer achieve sustainable net benefits. I mean, that is often the hardest move an executive has to make.
That's a huge resource saver.
A huge resource saver. And this raises a final provocative question for you to consider. Are your organizational controls designed and incentivized primarily to execute efficiently, or are they truly designed and utilized to strategically stop failing initiatives?
That distinction, execution versus strategic cessation, is